Hello, everybody. It is a Monday morning. How's everyone doing after the weekend? Yes. All right. Peanut Gallery here in the Live Impact studio. I'm Jane Monreal. You are watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Hope you had a good weekend in the Charlotte area. Sun finally came out, didn't it? And it did start hurricane season, just something to be aware of. So June 1st, we're going to say January 1st. June 1st, today is June 2nd. We're going to talk about the hurricane special that's coming up here on WCNC Charlotte as well as Plus. But first, let's talk to Chris Mulcahy now about this weather and everything related to the hurricane special. What's up, Chris?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well. We're getting things started. It's a Monday. We've got some rest over the weekend. Carlene and I were saying.
Okay, good.
We did some things.
Can we go to the big shot because we got James here too?
I was gonna say, James, here's your warning.
Go for the. Oh, there it is. Hi,
James. Yep,
this is nice.
This is the Peanut Gallery, everyone.
Mm-hmm. I like being a part of that gallery. It's my favorite gallery to be a part of.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So this is what's happening.
Okay, well, first off, I want to live in the past a little bit. So let's start with it because in the weather world, as you know, that we divide our weather stats up into 3-month sections. It is not based on the Gregorian calendar where you have no idea if it's the 19th to the 23rd of a given month for when the season's going to change. So that means that we've wrapped the books up. We've closed them for the spring season, and that would be March, April, and May. But what's interesting is we tied for the second warmest spring in Charlotte history, and that dates back to 1879. That is substantial. April was the warmest on record. Also, I don't have this on here. May was the first month that we actually had a surplus of rain in what would be since October. So we're talking about nearly 7 to 8 month span that we've had just a negative surplus, and that's why it's been such a bad deal as far as our drought goes. So that was a much needed thing to see that rain. So all right, moving forward to our forecast, this is what you have to expect. It's definitely feeling a lot more June-like. Some of the headlines today through tomorrow, you can expect really just dry, comfortable feeling weather. It's going to be fantastic. And our Thursday, that humidity really starts to creep in. I think you're going to have more clouds at that point. And there's one error on this graphic, not the only point that I took a screenshot of this when it was still dark outside, but it says warm. No, it's going to be hot. We're looking at temperatures that are right around 90 degrees, which, by the way, is not something that we have done in Charlotte in 2025. And that's also going to up some of our storm chances. But there's one other thing that I want to get to, and that's about the atmospheric smoke. So smoke has been coming down from Canada. Sometimes when this happens, I remember, James, refresh my memory, was it 2 or 3 years ago that we had a code red here from the smoke? I think.
Sounds like 2 years ago.
About 2 years ago? Okay, thank you. So about 2 years ago, yeah, we had a code red here. We went actually weather alert. Well, we called the weather aware at that point, but weather alert for that day because we haven't seen that. And sometimes you can have such a thick plume of smoke that can come down to the surface that can cause some either a code orange, unhealthy for sensitive groups, or worse. This was mainly just making our atmosphere a little bit hazy. So I think you're going to have some atmospheric haze. But here's something really cool. One of my meteorologist friends, Chris Michaels, sent me some of these photos, and I was sharing these from Raleigh. So yesterday, the sun actually appeared red because of that smoke. So smoke, just a particle in the atmosphere, just like when the sun is setting, it can change the angle where it turns a blue sky over to a yellow to a red. Just because of the smoke, it was actually reflecting or refracting the light from the sun, so it made it appear red. So that is the slightest chance that you might see that today, because I think we have some more smoke today compared to what we had yesterday. Sometimes that can also prohibit you from having some pop-up storms. So today, luckily, we don't have that. Here's another one from one of the viewers. His name was Johnny Mike, who sent this to Chris. So thanks a lot, Chris Michaels, for letting me share these photos. Moving on, we have a big warm-up on the way. So this is really interesting. Through the month of May, we hit a max of 87 degrees 4 times. We couldn't get past it. It was really tough. Or 3 times, excuse me. We couldn't get past it. So 88 is the warmest we've been, and that was back on April 5th, and it was also a testament why April was the warmest that we've had in Charlotte history. Well, it looks like this time I think we're going to finally do it. Last time we were calling for 90, we only hit 87. Last time I called for 89, we only hit 87. So, of course, I'm dreading putting 90 on there, but I did it anyways. So for a Guy Roofing 7-day forecast, you can't live in fear, right?
Right.
I think now that it's June, we should be able to do it. There's only one thing that could bust this forecast. For one, we're increasing our rain chances, but we actually have a little tropical low, this little wave that's right off the shoreline. As that pushes up on Friday, if it edges a little bit further in, that could bring our temperatures down, or it could adjust in general what our rain chances are going to be. So I just want everyone to know that, keep that in mind, that our increased rain chances are especially high late in the afternoon heading into your evening, Jane. So if you have any weekend plans, it might be tough to avoid the showers, but I think if you do anything early in both days, the way things are looking, you're going to be fine. But I think it's a good idea because it's not as hot.
And are those showers, do they come through quickly? You know how summer afternoon storms go? It's like, oh, we go in, we come out, we're in and out.
For the most part, a lot of these are, they kind of burn themselves out. So these are typical, as they call, garden variety thunderstorms. Some of them can turn stronger, but I think they pop up, and oftentimes it takes 45 minutes to an hour for them to exhaust themselves, and then a new one can kind of form nearby. I think we have that type of setup on your Saturday and Sunday. But as of right now, again, this is the back end of the forecast. Things can change within 3 days drastically. But I think at this point, I think if you can do anything mid-afternoon before that, you're good. But as Jane nailed it, pretty much any given July, by the end of the day, you have a chance of a storm to pop up. Picture this as just flipping the switch over to that summertime pattern that we can just anticipate those daily starting this weekend.
And hey, if we don't reach 90 this weekend, that's okay.
Nobody's been mad at me yet, so I'm okay. And I'll admit when I'm wrong too, but I was just like, but nobody says, Chris, how dare you?
Yeah, right. Let's talk about the hurricane special. You did
Yes.
some work for this coming up this Wednesday, and it's going to be at 8 o'clock. So the whole team, the Weather Impact Special, you're going to talk about predictions for the year, talk about, looking back again at the devastation from Helene, and explain a lot of this science. So I know you guys did a lot of work behind that too.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this is because, we have a lot of passion here, and I've done it here as well, raising your weather IQ. So essentially this is that, but we're calling it Hurricane IQ because, of course, there's one central subject. But this is your best chance to really learn everything from the very basics to even things that are a little bit more advanced, like El Nino, La Nina, how it affects everything. And one thing that I've noticed, and James also has his wonderful Carolina weather group that he does a lot of stuff with it, is that the National Hurricane Center each and every year has really been driving something home. And we saw that with Helene, is just because it's on the coast doesn't mean that you're out of the woods. It's the inland areas that they keep on warning people that, hey, anyone that pretty much lives in that state has to be wary of that. Like, for example, Milton's worst damage, in my opinion, was the amount of tornadoes that went through. It was one of the biggest tornado outbreaks they've seen from this. We've seen tropical storms here produce dozens of tornado warnings for us. You saw what Helene did beforehand. It's the inland areas can get just as much rain from these systems, the tornadoes. So the National Hurricane Center is really trying to hammer home that just because you're not on the coast doesn't mean that this doesn't affect you. And that includes for us here in Charlotte, as we've seen before.
Absolutely. Okay, so again, everyone, friends, put this on your calendar.
Do it now.
Mark it on your Google Planner, your BlackBerry.
I'll do it as well.
Your Nokia.
Please tell me if you still have a BlackBerry.
Those were
Palm
good. The
Pilot,
keyboard, the Palm Pilot, yeah.
I got my razor.
I love those razors.
I had the Crazer. It was much thinner.
Yes, June 4th, this Wednesday at 8 o'clock in the evening as you wrap up your dinner plans. Stick with us, WCNC Charlotte and WCNC Plus. Put the app on your TV right now, Roku, Apple, your Fire TV. Well, you're watching us on your Roku, aren't you?
Yeah, tell a friend to do that.
Put it on your moms and your
Yeah.
friends and your relatives' Roku, because really, not just the Carolinas, but anywhere that a hurricane might affect you and yours. So we're going to keep our weather IQ up with Chris Mulcahy and the rest of the gang.
Because I always come up with these random ideas and force my way back in. Since I'm pretty much going to be here the top of most for 9 o'clock. On Wednesday, we're going to do a few trivia questions.
Yay!
Oh,
And I'll have
okay.
you all answer leading up to the hurricane special and see how high your hurricane IQ is.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Start studying.
I know.
Oh,
I always think I'm going to be okay since I'm from Hurricane.
Same.
So, South Florida, but we'll see what we know.
Well, I know a great YouTube channel that will help you out on that. That is WCNC Weather IQ.
Weather IQ. There you go. All right. Chris Mulcahy in the Live Impact Studio. We're seeing you again at 10?
Not at 10 today. I think it might be Majestic.
All right.
But this has been great, and I'll see you again tomorrow.
All right. We'll see you then. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Back out here, we are going to change gears right now because over the weekend there was a shooting at a neighborhood house party in the Hickory area where 12 people were shot, 11 of them with injuries, several of those still in the hospital, and one confirmed dead after that situation. We had our crews on the scene all weekend gathering information with authorities there. We have the entire press conference with the Catawba County Sheriff's Office, as well as the SBI and FBI. Let's bring that to you now here and get you caught up with the weekend's events on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Our investigation indicates more than one shooter was involved in the incident. We are still working to determine when they arrived, how they arrived, and what the reasoning was for their presence, also the motive.
Were they shooting at each other?
We're not releasing that information at this time.
Just to confirm, there haven't been any arrests yet, and could you speak to the difficulty in trying to piece that together and find people to hold responsible for this?
No arrest at this time as of this briefing. It certainly, in circumstances where there's a large gathering of people that have come for some common event like a party, nobody lives here, no one's local to here, they all leave. We're trying to track those people down. We've interviewed a lot of people this morning. about 70 or so. Still looking to interview more people that were here, and it has been difficult to find those people and to encourage people that might not have the inclination to be truthful to otherwise help us out in this investigation.
Do you have an idea of the age ranges of some of the like the party that was happening here? Kids, teenagers, adults. What kind of mix of people were at this party do you gather so far?
It's fair to say it was a mix of people. We have identified some people that were here that were under the age of 21 in their teenage years, and then persons in their 20s and older.
Any idea in terms of, was it the noise that sparked this, or what sparked this?
Candidly, we don't know. We're searching for the motive, using all of our resources, trying to establish a motive and then find those responsible. It doesn't appear to have been the noise. Other factors and animosity between parties, we're looking into all that that might be out.
Have you identified the victim who has been pronounced deceased, and can you share that information with us at this time?
We have identified that person. I'm going to send that out in a release on email just as soon as we finish, so I can make sure I get all of that correct for you.
Any reason to think this is linked to any other crimes that y'all have been investigating in the past, any other criminal elements? Because a lot of these things kind of end up meshing together ultimately.
We don't have any specific leads as I stand here that would take us in that direction. We certainly have not ruled that out, though, and we're looking at every possibility.
Given the number of agencies that are involved and the numbers that are actually focused on the crime scene, can you talk about how complicated a scene is it, and how challenging is that going to be in terms of resolving this case?
In my experience, this is a complicated scene. It spans several separate individual pieces of property. I would say it's larger than 2 acres in total sum, and both inside and outside crime scenes. And we still have the SBI and the FBI processing the scene along with our detectives, and we anticipate them being here throughout the evening, possibly into the night.
Were these people shooting at each other at close range, or was it much farther apart, or was there a variety there?
It was varying distances.
Can you provide any details on the weapons or weapons used in the shooting?
There were multiple weapons used. We're not releasing specific weapons at this time. We're hopeful that those that might have that information, only they have it, we'll try to get it from them.
Can you say whether some of those were long guns?
We believe some were, yes, sir.
How many shots fired would you guesstimate?
We are still recovering shell casings and trying to piece that together. As I stand here, more than 80 shots were fired.
And just to reassure neighbors, would you say this was a targeted incident, something that happened between two parties, and not something that was during active violence?
We don't believe that this was random and a circumstance that might endanger the community. All that we can see right now from the crime scene and the leads that we're following, it seems to be that those that initiated the shooting were focused on the folks at the party.
How frustrating is this to try and piece this together? So many people here, so much senseless violence. How frustrating is this?
It's definitely frustrating from an investigative perspective, but again, the important thing for us is to find those responsible and to bring them to justice. We will spend days, nights, weeks, whatever it might take to find those responsible and hold them accountable.
Can you just kind of speak to emotions to have something like this happen in your jurisdiction?
I'll let Sheriff Brown talk on that. Emotions that we might be feeling.
Sure, absolutely. It's again, it is frustrating. This is not a common act or an incident that occurs here in Catawba County. We live in a great community, and this is something that is extremely rare. Again, I said I talked to some neighbors here. They are visibly upset, and to our staff that works these types of cases, it's very difficult. It's taxing on them. They've been out here all night. We're calling in other resources, and it's just it's emotional to everyone involved. But for me as the sheriff, my responsibility is the safety and security of our citizens, and that's what bothers me the most, is when we can't prevent something like this, and all we can do is find the people responsible and hold them accountable.
There's a lot of teachers who have commented on our social media page concerned that their students might have somehow been subjected or witness to this violence. Anything you could say to just how young some kids are who are being exposed to this type of violence right now, not knowing anything about the suspects, obviously.
Well, not with just this incident. We're seeing more and more violence with our youth and our young folks, and whether it's them actually committing the crimes or the people that they're victimizing. So it certainly has an effect on those folks. And as Major Turk said, I think it was D.A. Riley said that these people's lives have been changed forever, and it's memories that they're going to have that's going to affect them for the rest of their lives.
You guys mentioned the noise complaint earlier that you responded to. I'm just curious, was there anything leading up to this that you guys have had to address to come down here and talk to these folks about that might have given some hint that something like this might be possible?
I'll let Major Turk address that question.
Nothing we've identified so far that we think is a direct link to this incident. We did again address a noise complaint issue at that home. I believe it was loud music earlier in the evening. We can't find a direct tie from that call to this. The people that were supplying the music turned it down, and we can't find a link right now.
Last question.
Just to follow up on that, I'm assuming that is not an unnormal occurrence. Law enforcement gets called out for a noise complaint. You can't predict what's going to happen afterwards, right?
Yes, those are regular calls that we receive, and again, we're not finding a link from that call to this right now. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Sheriff Don Brown, Catawba County. First, I want to share my deepest and sincerest condolences to the family and friends of the deceased. Second, I want to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry to everyone that has been affected by this senseless act of violence. To include the families in this neighborhood. I've talked to some of the folks here, and they are horrified with what has happened this morning. The response of our law enforcement partners, Hickory Police Department, EMS, the North Carolina Highway Patrol, the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigations, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the ATF, has been nothing less than remarkable. I want everyone to know that we are going to work together tirelessly and diligently to identify the individuals responsible for this act. It is times like this that partnerships and relationships with our community and our law enforcement is so important. I'm going to defer to Major Turk.
Thanks, Sheriff Brown. I'm Aaron Turk. I'm a major with the Sheriff's Office here in Catawba County, also the Public Information Officer for the Sheriff's Office. I'll offer some information to you about what brought us here, the current status of our investigation, and where we're anticipating going with that investigation. You'll probably have some questions after I offer that. We're going to have some other speakers. Just let those speakers finish first, and then we'll take your questions at the end. So last night around 11 p.m., we received a noise complaint from the residents that later suffered the shooting incident. Our deputies responded to that complaint, addressed the controlling parties there at the residence about the noise, and left a short time later. At 12:45 this morning, the same residents, we received multiple 911 calls about a shooting. Those calls reported multiple persons being shot at the location that's down the street here. When our deputies arrived, also Hickory police officers arrived, they discovered what ended up being 12 people shot. One of the 12 was deceased on scene. Another of those 12 was critically injured and is presently at the hospital in Charlotte, or one of the hospitals in Charlotte. The others were treated at area hospitals. Some have been released. Others are still receiving treatment. We have partnered in this investigation with the State Bureau of Investigation here in North Carolina, as well as the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Those agencies are helping us process the crime scene, generate leads. As everybody knows, this day and time, there's a lot that goes on in social media. They're helping with that. You'll hear more from the FBI on point about that in particular. We have many investigators that are down the hill at the incident location, still working on the scene, still generating leads. As the sheriff said, we are certainly hopeful to find those that are responsible and bring them here to justice. Again, I'll come back and answer your questions as we go through this further. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is, I'm the special agent in charge here in North Carolina FBI office. The people of North Carolina should be able to enjoy a spring evening. Unfortunately, violent crime came to the countryside here. It impacts people all over the United States. The FBI's #1 priority is to crush violent crime. Whether we are doing that in partnership, as we are doing here, supporting our local partners, Catawba Sheriff's Office and the State Bureau of Investigation, or the FBI when we lead investigations, make no mistake, we will mitigate the violent crime problem here in the United States, and particularly in North Carolina. What we're doing in this particular situation is we are supporting this investigation. We are bringing resources. We had victim services specialists meeting with victims of the shooting last night. They are at the hospitals meeting with victims. We have FBI special agents helping with leads, investigations, and processing the crime scene. We have evidence response teams. They are here on site as well, and they are taking pictures. They are looking at trajectories of bullets, and they're helping to collect the evidence that's on scene. Also, the FBI is setting up a tips line, a digital tips line. Anyone that was at this party should go to the FBI.gov website, and there will be a digital tips line shortly. We're going to do a press release as well that will have that information for you all. Anyone has any information, anyone that was here last night, should call 911 or call the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI. We'll take questions later, but I'd like to turn it over to the Special Agent in charge of the State Bureau of Investigation. Okay.
Good afternoon, Special Agent in charge of the SBI. I'm out of the Hickory District Office, the Northwestern District. Our agency was requested by the Catawba County Sheriff's Office. We're providing crime scene assistance, investigative assistance as far as interviews. We've had our intel folks step up and provide assistance with that as well. We're continued to help with this case as far as assisting local, state, federal agencies. Like it's already said before, we're here until we can figure out who done this. So if anybody has any information they'd like to pass along, there'll be some resources at the end that you guys can reach out to. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Scott Riley. I'm the District Attorney for Burke, Caldwell, and Catawba counties. And I'd also like to offer my deepest condolences to the families of all of the victims involved. They have all had their lives just drastically altered and changed forever by this senseless act of violence. And I would just like to thank all of our law enforcement partners for their very swift response and working tirelessly around the clock to investigate this tragedy. I have full confidence in their abilities and that they will hold and bring the people responsible to justice. Thank you.
All right, we'll take any questions now. Lynn?
And that was the weekend's press conference with many detectives and authorities regarding that Hickory area shooting with 12 people shot. Want to talk about Mental Health Awareness Month. While May has pretty much wrapped up and Mental Health Awareness Month is behind us, the conversation about mental health is year-round in Charlotte. Today we are joined by Kate Weaver. She's the Executive Director of NAMI Charlotte. And Kate, before we get into some of the tools that are being launched by NAMI, first of all, what is the mission of NAMI?
Thank you. Yes, so NAMI stands for the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and it's the oldest, largest grassroots nonprofit dedicated to supporting anyone affected by mental illness, and quite frankly, that's all of us.
Yeah, right. Seriously. One of the board members, Tom Bryden, he has his own connections to NAMI after losing his own daughter, whose also name is Kate, to mental health. What can you share about his story?
Yeah, so Kate Bryden died a year and a half ago in February, and she had suffered with severe mental illness for many years. She was 31, and I have a 31-year-old daughter as well who also suffers from mental illness. So I understood the hospital times and how how difficult it is to support someone who's struggling. And unfortunately, suicide is part of some people's mental health journey. And Tom called NAMI soon after Kate died and said, I want to set up a memorial. We want people who are coming to our service not to bring flowers, but to donate. And that fund grew. And he said, let's do something that will make a huge impact in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so we recognize that access to care is the #1 problem for people getting help. So we searched the country and found that in Dallas, Texas, they have a mental health navigator that works. So we called the Halliburton Foundation, which is the organization that launched it, and they agreed to help us bring this mental health navigator to Charlotte.
Wow.
So it is all based on the wonderful and generous time that Tom and his wife Sylvia have given to NAMI in Kate's honor. And we are launching this website today, and coincidentally, but I don't think there's a coincidence here, it's Kate Bryden's birthday.
What does this navigator do? How does this work?
So it's going to be the first of its kind in Charlotte. It's a website. You go on, it's free for the public. It's called NAMI Navigator Charlotte, and you can search for help by your age range, your zip code, and your diagnosis. Once you put that information in, providers will pop up that are near you. And so you will know how many providers work at this location, what their specialties are, and a link to make an appointment.
Wow, that sounds like it's necessary because we were just talking off stream here saying that this happened at a time during the pandemic, right? You were looking for some help and that was okay, but it was really post-pandemic that resources were hard to come by.
Yes, well, it's always been difficult to get connected to a provider in Charlotte, whether there's so many barriers, whether it's access to care, the cost of finding someone to help you, just the labyrinth of trying to navigate the system, and stigma, quite frankly. People are not willing to talk about what's going on, and that's what NAMI does, is brings the conversation up. We're not afraid to talk about mental health and the importance of getting help.
So if someone were to call NAMI today or use this tool today, launches today, what can they expect?
I'm glad you asked that because we understand that sometimes people can't even Google because they're struggling. And so we are training a group of volunteer mental health navigators as we speak. And so when you call, a trained navigator will answer the phone and walk you through how to find the right resource for whatever you're going through or what your family is going through. We will stay with you or your family until you get connected, whether that's 1 phone call or 5 phone calls.
What, you said it started it's really successful in Texas and the Dallas area.
Yes.
Any adaptations need to be made for Charlotte besides resources that are in Charlotte?
Yes, so, oh my goodness, we did not even realize what a huge project this would be when we started. But it's a massive project filled with technology and all sorts of different resource changes. So we have over 350 pages of resources in the website. We had to adapt all of that to Charlotte. Additionally, we are launching this website a little bit later this summer in Spanish. We're currently working on getting all of that content appropriate for the Charlotte market. And then we are recruiting providers. We hope to have every single mental health provider, addiction provider, and wraparound service in this database. So it will become the place to go for anyone seeking help in Mecklenburg County.
This is the first program outside of Texas?
Yes, we're the first.
Wow. So what does it mean to you then that this status is outside of Texas? What does it mean to the NAMI organization here?
It's incredible. We are so, so grateful to our board of directors, to all our volunteers and our staff and the Brydens for taking this leap of faith to bringing this very big project to Charlotte. And we are hopeful that other NAMIs around the country will adopt it. So we have a national organization in DC, and we have state organizations in all the states. And in North Carolina, we have 24 affiliates. So we know that other communities are going to need this service as well. But we do think it should be local. That's the best way to keep up with all the providers. So this tool here is called NAMI Navigator Charlotte. We're hoping that someday there's NAMI Navigator Raleigh, NAMI Navigator Chicago, and we hope this spreads across the country so more people can access help.
If it's someone like Kate who was suffering and has her own story with mental health, and the family around her is aware of this, you encourage other people to somewhat run an intervention and call the NAMI Navigator?
Yeah, so we learned from Texas over half the people who call a navigator are calling on behalf of someone they love.
Okay.
And for some people, finding help when you're struggling is overwhelming.
Yes. Right. So absolutely, those in your circle and community are encouraged to use this.
Absolutely.
If someone cannot do it for themselves.
Absolutely. And we recognize sometimes people just don't know the questions to ask.
Right.
So we'll be able to walk them through how to connect to resources.
What do you need from us, the Charlotte area community, to help advocate for NAMI and those who need it?
Thank you. 3 things. Number 1 is spread awareness. All the programs that we offer support groups, classes, presentations. It's all free. And we want to be known as the place to go. We want to be a household word in Charlotte. So when you need help, you call NAMI. Number 2, we are always looking for volunteers, whether you want to become a mental health navigator or run a support group, or just help us with NAMI Walks, which is our big community event coming up November 8th at the Mint Museum on Randolph Road. We need lots of volunteers, and we need lots of people to come out and join us to walk for mental health.
Okay, and then if they want to go online, NAMI, what is the link?
So NAMICharlotte.org is our website.
Okay.
The new website launching today is NAMINavigatorCharlotte.org. And our helpline number is 704-705-7004. And a navigator will pick up and get you the help you need.
One more time with that phone number?
It's 704-705-7004.
And as we close things out here, Kate, for viewers or listeners, what message do you want to let them know about NAMI and the work that is needed and what is available to them?
Well, our tagline is, "You are not alone." And that is the truth. Once you start sharing your story, you give permission to others to share their stories. We're truly all in this together. And if we can help each other out, I really believe we'll be a healthier, happier place to live. And that's what my dream is for Charlotte, North Carolina. We've also opened a new resource center at 801 East Moorhead. And that's a place people can just come in and access a navigator and get help. We're having a launch party today at noon at the Resource Center. We are thrilled that this is going live. We are thrilled to honor Kate Bryden on her birthday with this amazing tool that will save lives.
You've talked to Tom. How's he doing on a day like today?
Tom and Sylvia are both amazing people. They're incredibly generous with their financial help, but also by telling their story, because they know that Kate's story doesn't have to end for other people if they get the help they need. So we're just grateful to have them and looking forward to celebrating today.
All right, Kate Weaver, Executive Director of NAMI Charlotte. The Navigator tool launches today, and it's a groundbreaking initiative for the Charlotte area, something that we could use, and hopefully you and yours find it useful and check it out. It is there for you. Like you said, it takes all of us to help each other out. So we will continue the conversation and hopefully start chipping away at that stigma that really affects so many people. All right, Kate Weaver, thank you for joining us here in the Live Impact studio on WCNC Plus. It is 9:36 right now on a Monday morning. We want to take you now to Dedham, Massachusetts, where the Karen Reed retrial is entering week 7. This is now the defense starting their case. They are bringing up a second witness after talking to a reconstruction expert last week. This is someone who is a friend of another investigator who was at the party. This witness did not appear at that first trial, but is now here for the retrial of Karen Reed. Of course, she is facing charges of murder, second-degree murder in the death of her boyfriend at a house party that happened in 2022. Let's take you out there now live here on Live Impact News on WCNC+.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay.
On January 29, 2022, 11 p.m., 5 minutes, 57 seconds, and this page ends at 11 p.m., 6 minutes, 39 seconds on January 29, 2022, ending in numbers 38. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Mr. Proctor says, from all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job, and then uses the C word to describe. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
He then says, yeah, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass. Are those the words that he wrote?
Those are the words.
And there's a response at the bottom from one member in the group stating, oh, she's skating.
Yes.
Let's turn the page, ending in 3-9. These begin in January 29, 2022, 11:06 p.m., 55 seconds. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
Mr. Proctor responds, zero chance she skated. She's effed. She's fucked.
Yes.
Is that what he said?
It is.
And then one person in the group says, no ass bitch. Accurate?
Yes, that's accurate.
Mr. Proctor, there's a response, laughed at, quote, no ass bitch.
Yes.
All right, just to let you know, that is from the lawyer. This is on the stream on WCNC+. We apologize for any language going out there, but this is coming live, raw and unfiltered from the courtroom out of Dedham, Massachusetts, in this retrial from the testimony side from the defense team now.
Somebody in the group says, is that chick a smoke? And then the same person follows up with a question mark. Accurate?
Accurate.
Mr. Proctor responds, E-H.
Yes.
Nut bag, as my chief would say.
Yes.
She's got a leaky balloon knot.
Yes.
Leaks poo.
Yes.
Are those the words of Mr. Proctor?
They are.
Did I read those accurately?
You did.
And then a person in the group says, what are you guzzling on? And this is on, well, let me take a step back to be more clear. The comments I just read, those weren't on January 29th. Those were on February 2nd, 2022.
Correct.
And the time is 12:50 p.m. 12:50 and 5 seconds p.m. begin the page?
Yes, beginning of the page, yes.
So these are different in time than the ones we read before, the series of text messages?
Correct.
Okay. And then at the bottom, one of the members of the group says, what are you guzzling on?
Correct.
And that's still February 2nd, 2022, and that's at 1:51:33 p.m.
Yes.
And then if you can turn to page that ends on with numbers 44.
Yes.
And this is on February 2nd, 2022, 1:52:24. Mr. Proctor says, nothing, writing a warrant.
That's accurate.
There are no further text messages?
From Mr. Proctor?
Yes, or anybody in this group that you have as part of this exhibit?
That was not the last comment.
Okay, let me look. Okay. Is there another YouTube video?
There is.
You were not part of any of these conversations with Mr. Proctor?
No.
But you're still friends with him?
I am.
In your conversations with Mr. Proctor, has he ever suggested that he planted evidence in this case or any other case?
No.
In your conversations with Mr. Proctor, has he ever suggested framing a defendant, including this defendant?
Absolutely not.
In all your conversations with Mr. Proctor, has he ever suggested tampering with evidence in this case or in any other case?
No, absolutely not.
Mr. Proctor was fired?
He was.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Sir, at the time Michael Proctor was revealing this information on this high school group chat, was this information public?
I have no memory, one way or the other.
At the time Michael Proctor was texting these messages to you and your other high school friends, were Ms. Reed's medical conditions public? Did you know anything about Ms. Reed's medical conditions?
I didn't know anything about this case at all.
Michael Proctor was the one revealing those details about the case to you and anybody on the chat who cared to read them, correct?
Correct.
And you were asked questions about why Michael Proctor was fired, and I believe you answered in a shorthand way for these text messages. Were you aware he was fired for being biased?
I'm not aware of that.
Objection.
So the answer will stand. He's not aware.
Were you aware that he was fired for revealing confidential information about an investigation?
I was not aware of that.
And were you aware that he was also fired for conduct unbecoming a state trooper and a lead investigator in this case?
I was not aware of that.
I have no further questions.
You're not aware that he was fired for conduct unbecoming because of these text messages?
My understanding was it was due to the text messages. I don't know the other details of the situation.
Do you know he was fired for any accusations of planting or tampering with evidence?
I do not know that.
Do you know that he was not fired for doing anything to compromise the integrity of the evidence in this investigation?
I do not know that.
All right. So, sir, I am going to let you step down, and then, folks, I have an instruction for you that I should have read at the time that text messages came in. You can leave them right with Madam Court Reporter.
Thank you.
And you're all set. Thank you. All right, so I've told you folks previously, but I've got an additional instruction here. And I think so you know this, and you'll hear it at the end of the case as well. Before you consider any electronic communication in your deliberations, you must first find that it is more likely true than not that the person who authored or created or transmitted the communication was in fact the person alleged. And here we've heard it be Michael Proctor and high school friends, the testimony was, I believe. If you do not find it is more likely true than not that the person alleged to have created or sent these messages, then you may not consider the electronic communication in deciding this case. And also here, this text message chain was not being admitted for the truth of what's in the chain, but solely for the limited purpose of weighing the texts as they go to Michael Proctor's state of mind. And more specifically, whether or not that state of mind reflects any bias or omissions in the police investigations. So, all right, is there another witness this morning? Okay.
We would ask Officer Kelly Dever to join us, please.
Okay.
You solemnly swear the evidence you give the court and jury in the case now and here to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. Good morning. Morning.
Morning, ma'am.
May I inquire?
Yes.
Good morning. Could you state your name and spell your last name for the jurors, please?
Kelly Dever, last name D-E-V-E-R.
And what do you do for a living, presently?
I'm a police officer.
Where are you employed?
Boston Police.
How long have you been so employed with the Boston Police Department?
2 years and a little over 2 months.
Where'd you work before that?
I worked for the Canton Police.
Were you a sworn officer at that time?
At what time? When I
you
was
worked for the
employed there?
When you were employed by the Canton Police Department?
Yes, I was.
As a sworn police officer?
Yes.
Okay. What was your duty assignment in January of 2022?
I was a patrol officer.
You're familiar with the case that's presently before the bench, correct?
In some capacity, yes.
Commonwealth versus Karen Reed.
Yes.
All right. Did you ever prepare any kind of report based on any of your conduct or your connection with this case, if there was any connection with this case, while you were a Canton police officer?
No.
Were you ever interviewed by any member of the Canton Police Department in furtherance of their investigation related to the death of John O'Keefe?
No.
Were you ever interviewed by the Massachusetts State Police?
No.
Let me finish the question. I got to finish the question, then you can answer. It works a little better that way. Were you ever interviewed by any member of the Massachusetts State Police in furtherance of their investigation into the death of John O'Keefe?
No.
Were you ever interviewed by either the Canton Police Department or the Massachusetts State Police with regard to any of your observations on January 28th or January 29th, 2022?
No.
And you never wrote a report about your observations or any observations that you had on January 28th or January 29th, 2022, correct?
No.
That was a double negative. Let me try that a different way. Did you ever write a report about your observations related to January 28th, 2022, January 29th, 2022?
No.
Thank you. As a matter of fact, the first time you were ever interviewed in connection with anything having to do with this case or this investigation related to the death of John O'Keefe was by a separate law enforcement agency, not the Massachusetts State Police, not the Canton Police Department, correct?
Yes.
That was in August of 2023, is that right?
Yes.
Do you remember the exact date?
No.
August 9th, 2023, does that sound right, about right?
I know it was the summer of 2023, so...
Okay. Do you think it would refresh your recollection to take a look at a report of that interview?
Yes, because I've never seen it before.
Just insofar as the date is concerned, may I approach?
Yes.
Thank you. Take a look at the bottom of that page. Just glance at that and tell me once you familiarize yourself with that face page of that report. Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you have that date in mind?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection that it was August 9th, 2023?
Yes.
Okay. I want to direct your attention, Officer Dever, to January 28th, 2022. Where were you working? What was your duty assignment on that day, January 28th, moving into January 29th?
Well, 3.5 years later, I remember I was on patrol. I don't remember anything further about this night.
Did you work overnight, like a late shift going into the morning of January 29th?
That was my assigned shift, so yes.
Okay. Who else was working with you on that particular day, if you recall?
Sergeant Good, Officer Mullaney, Officer Seraph, and Officer Pasquarelli.
And what generally was your assignment when you went into work that night on January 28th?
Patrol.
At some point, either that evening in the early morning hours of January 29th, did you note that a call came in related to a person found in the snow, unresponsive in the snow?
Yes.
Tell me about that. The nature of the call and where were you?
I was in my cruiser. A call came in that said person in a snowbank, something along those lines. Immediately followed by that transmission, my sergeant requested that I come to take over dispatch.
Is that Sergeant Good?
Yes.
Okay. Did you, in fact, respond back to Canton PD to take over dispatch?
Yes, so I was already in the parking lot of the Canton Police while this took place, so I was already at the station.
Did you know whether or not Sergeant Good and or any of the others responded to the location while you stayed back to handle dispatch at the police department?
Yes, that's why I went inside, so he could respond.
Were you aware that Sergeant Good, did you have any knowledge at that time that Sergeant Good was familiar with or knew who Brian Albert was?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you know who Brian Albert was at
No.
that time?
No.
Do you now? At least
Because of
familiar
this
with the
case,
name?
yes.
I spoke over you, I'm so sorry. Based on this case, are you familiar with the name?
The name, yes.
Okay. Did you know Kevin Albert?
No. Oh, the detective Kevin Albert. Yes, I did.
Correct. How did you know Kevin Albert?
He was a detective for the Canton Police.
Were you aware of his relationship to Brian Albert at that time?
No.
Are you now aware of his relationship with Brian Albert?
Yes, from the media.
And what is that relationship as you know it?
Sustained.
Did you know Brian Higgins at that time?
Yes, in passing.
I'm not asking if you're social friends, asking if you knew who he was.
Yes.
How'd you know who Brian Higgins was?
He had an office in the Canton Police.
Was he a sworn police officer?
Not for us.
Was he a sworn federal agent?
Yes.
Worked for ATF?
Yes.
Okay. How long had you known and been familiar with Brian Higgins? Say, for instance, by sight, to be able to recognize who he was.
Sometime during 2020 is when I was probably first familiarized with him, because that's when I was employed with the Canton Police Department first.
Okay. Pass him in the hallways, hi, bye, things like that.
Objection. Yes.
Sustained as to form, Mr. Jackson.
Understood. Did you know him by sight?
Yes.
Could you recognize him if you saw him?
2.5 years later, no, but at the time, yes.
I'm not asking you about right now. I'm asking you back in January 2022. Could you recognize him by sight?
Yes.
Did you know who Kenneth Berkowitz was?
Yes.
Who is Kenneth Berkowitz?
He was the chief of the Canton Police.
Obviously very familiar with him. He was your boss, correct?
Yes.
When Sergeant Good instructed you to take over dispatch, explain what that meant.
It meant I walked inside and I sat down in a dispatch room.
Describe the dispatch room. What did that array look like?
There was chairs and computers.
Monitors?
Yes.
Does the dispatch area also have monitors of internal security camera footage?
I know there was camera screens, but I don't know if they were on TVs or computers or where in dispatch they were. I don't recollect where they were or how they would be accessed. They were in the room somewhere. I can't be more specific. I don't remember.
But you do recall seeing that there were monitors that were showing different views of internal security camera footage of Canton PD, correct?
The specifics, no. Were there? Yes.
I don't know what you mean by specifics. I'm asking you, were there monitors that you could look at that showed security camera footage from inside Canton PD, different areas, hallways, corridors, offices, the Sally port, for instance?
So, 2.5 years since I've...
You keep saying 2.5 years later.
So let her finish her answer and then ask a question.
Sure.
It's been years since I've been in that room. They were somewhere in the room. Where cameras were in the Canton Police Department, I don't recall. The media's provided me information since this case took place, and I can't speak on what's my recollection and what's been media provided. There are cameras. I don't know where on my memory where they are.
So has the media informed you that there were internal security monitors at the dispatch location?
So the objection is sustained. Next question.
What do you recall from the dispatch room, as you put it? What do you recall being there in terms of monitors?
I remember there was a computer screen that had information about current calls, and then there was a 911 screen next to that. Those are the two computers that I would have been positioned in front of during this time.
As a dispatch officer, by the way, you were a sworn officer at
Yes.
that time, correct? Uniform, badge, gun, the whole works, right?
Yes.
Had you ever been in the Sally Port at Canton PD?
Yes.
What's the Sally Port?
A Sally Port is a garage, essentially.
Okay. You're aware that the Sally Port garage had a camera, a security camera?
It would make sense because that's where we bring prisoners to drop them off.
Well, more than just makes sense. I'm asking you, do you recall that it had cameras that serviced the Sally Port garage? Security cameras.
It's where we brought prisoners, so there would be cameras, yes.
Okay, you're saying there would be cameras. I'm asking you, were there cameras?
According to the media, yes. I've seen the footage, so yes, there were cameras.
All right, so hold on. So I'm going to strike that, officer. You have to answer the question based on your own independent methods. Okay? And if you don't have, but you can't reference what you know from the media.
All right. There were cameras in the Sally Port.
Thank you. Ms. Dever, do you want to be here today?
I have no relation to this case, so...
I didn't ask you that. I asked you if you want to be here today.
Objection. This isn't direct.
So it's your witness.
I understand.
She can, no comments, just questions. Not, I understand that.
Do you want to be here today now?
I am put on the stand in a murder trial. I don't know why I'm here. I have no connection to this case.
You have no idea why you're here?
You've never talked to me. Nobody on the fence seems to talk to me since prior to the first trial. So I don't have any idea why I'm here.
No clue whatsoever, as you sit here, why you might have been called to the stand?
No.
Are you uncomfortable testifying?
No, it's part of my job.
You're a professional police officer, correct?
Correct.
That means you're a professional witness to a certain degree, correct?
In the crimes that I've gone on the stand before, yes, I have been.
And you understand the oath?
Yes, I do.
What is that oath?
The oath is to tell the truth.
The whole truth and nothing but the truth, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
I'll rephrase it. Is there more to that oath when you raise your right hand as a witness?
I'm objecting.
So I'm going to see it sidebar for just a second.
Sure.
All right, things getting a little spicy here out of the Karen Reed retrial as they take a little bit of a sidebar with that witness. Very interesting back and forth dialogue there. The defense's witness says that she feels obligated to be there, but is not quite sure why she's there. All right, so we will go back to that. Didn't want to leave that conversation when it was time. But we'll bring you back out here now in the Live Impact studio, 10 o'clock straight up on a Monday morning. Hope you had a good weekend. I'm Jane Monreal, and you are watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Thanks for downloading the WCNC app to your Roku and Fire TVs and spreading the word, because this is what we do. We just bring you the news as we have it come into the newsroom live and many times unfiltered and raw. We also get you caught up with some of the latest headlines, one of them being protests that FBI agents are calling a targeted act of terrorism out of Boulder, Colorado. We'll get you caught up here with Alice Barr with the latest out of Washington on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
This morning, a painful recovery for 8 victims and an entire community after investigators say a man used a makeshift flamethrower and shouted "Free Palestine" during an attack in Boulder, Colorado on a march calling for the return of Israeli hostages still held in Gaza.
It is clear that this is a targeted act of violence, and the FBI is investigating this as an act of terrorism.
Videos from the scene show a man shouting and waving bottles filled with some kind of liquid. Authorities now identifying the suspect as 45-year-old Mohammed Sabri Solomon. Two senior law enforcement officials say he's an Egyptian national and that while the investigation is in the early stages, he appears to have acted alone. Police arrested him at the scene.
And they immediately ran into a chaotic situation where a man was throwing Molotov cocktails and using other devices to hurt people.
Witnesses joined in, rushing to help the victims between the ages of 52 to 88, some with very serious burns.
I was just like, how can I help? And they had like really bad burns all up on their legs. And then I went over to this other grass area that was like right by the front entrance. And there were some people, there was another lady on the ground with really bad burns on her legs, just like screaming.
The attack follows the deadly shooting less than 2 weeks ago of two Israeli embassy staff members in Washington, D.C., after which investigators say the suspect shouted that he did it for Gaza. And as the war there between Israel and Hamas drags on, both anti-Semitic and anti-Muslim hate crimes are on the rise. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
And we did have our content partner out of Denver, Colorado, KUSA, go to a press conference when this happened yesterday. This is it. The presser, the latest one we have to really give you more of the details on what happened there out of Boulder, Colorado. We'll play this for you now here on WCNC Plus.
To the scene. Our special agents, our victim specialists, and evidence response teams are doing everything they can to assist our law enforcement partners. In the coming days, we will continue to support the victims and help uncover the events leading up to this terrible attack. Know that we stand with you, we grieve with you, and we are here to help for as long as it takes. We're early in the investigation, but some details have emerged. I'm able to confirm there are 6 victims, ages 67 to 88. All of them have been transported to local hospitals. This attack happened at a regularly scheduled weekly peaceful event. Witnesses are reporting that the subject used a makeshift flamethrower and threw an incendiary device into the crowd. The suspect was heard to yell "Free Palestine" during the attack. The subject has been identified as Mohammed Sabri Solomon, and he's 45 years old. The FBI is processing the crime scene and the subject vehicle and interviewing key witnesses. We're assisting Boulder Police in providing technical, analytic, and additional forensic resources. As a result of these preliminary facts, it is clear that this is a targeted act of violence, and the FBI is investigating this as an act of terrorism. Sadly, attacks like this are becoming too common across the country. This is an example of how perpetrators of violence continue to threaten communities across our nation. It's our job, the FBI, the Boulder Police.
We are going to put a pin in that presser from yesterday's Boulder scene out of Colorado and bring you some breaking news now. A live press conference happening out of Charleston with the governor there as well as the sheriff talking about some ICE representatives are there as well. Let's go ahead and listen in here on Live Impact News.
A source of a lot of disruption, crime, assaults, drug dealing, etc. going on in that particular area. And I would tell you, we've heard from some of the business owners since this operation yesterday morning, very grateful to see the activity to be hopefully, well, will go away, will not come back from here. I want to tell you a little bit about what happened during the operation. I'm going to get into what I can. Please remember, we're roughly 24 hours post-operation. And there's a lot of investigating still going on, a lot of fact-finding still going on, and a lot more will come with this. But I want to give you the highlights. So there were 116 arrest warrants served. These are warrants that were already on file, both criminal warrants and warrants with our immigration partners, and they can talk about that. Of those 116 arrest warrants, 80 individuals were actually served those warrants. I understand in that nightclub, and we'll talk a little more about the illegal activity going in there, probably over 200 plus people that were in that club. That's a lot of criminal element in that nightclub that was in there. Of those were 2 high-level cartel members that were arrested, including those that were with the Los Zetas cartel and from the Tren de Aragua gang. So again, these are folks that have affiliations. There are others that we're looking into right now, checking their affiliations, and we believe that number may grow. We've also identified a number of potential trafficking victims who were removed from that situation and are being assisted. We had 1 missing juvenile that was recovered in that location. Let me say it again. We had a juvenile that we ran who was missing, a missing person. We're digging out a little more to find out why that missing individual wound up in that situation, but y'all can only imagine, so we'll continue working on that. There was 1 international warrant, a murder suspect warrant, that was served and located. An individual from Honduras wanted for murder by Interpol. Let me say that again. We had a murder suspect from Honduras in this club. We were there for a reason, to protect this county, protect the state. Plain and simple. Folks, we identified, other than those that we were the potential victims of trafficking, we identified 10 underage juveniles. Again, this is an unlicensed, unsanctioned bar. Check no IDs, didn't matter. So when bars closed at 2, at 3 o'clock, people started coming. They just come in here, no matter how old they're not checked, but 10 of them were juveniles. Our youngest that was removed from that situation was 13 years old. 13. What were they doing there at 3 o'clock in the morning, or after 3 o'clock in the morning? Firearms were recovered from the location. A quantity of cocaine was seized, and a quantity of an unknown controlled substance was confiscated. Testing is being done. Again, we're 24 hours into this operation to determine exactly what that was. We have 4 vehicles seized from the property, all as a result of possible drug issues that were identified, and we're getting search warrants for those vehicles. There's a large quantity of bulk currency that was recovered. We don't have the number on that. Again, that's part of the investigation. We have to get a bank counter to identify that. Why is that important? This goes back to some of the other things that are being investigated on this location, the drug trafficking, the money laundering. These are all specific items that were being targeted, and we were successful in handling. Facts matter, folks. That's why we're standing in front of you. Wish we could have put more out Sunday when this operation is over, but as you can tell, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of great agencies involved assisting to make this a success. And I would be remiss if I did not mention our own code enforcement in Charleston County. They assisted us as well. We have representatives here from the county that assisted us that will now have already put the seal on that business, stopping it from ever operating again. And we're going to be looking at other businesses that are operating illegally and becoming an issue in our community that continue to have this kind of criminal activity. So just want to share that with you. I'm going to ask 2 of our speakers to come up and speak in a moment and give any comments they want. But again, I think it's very, very important that we get the facts out, address the rumors that are everywhere going on right now, and to let y'all know that I'm doing exactly what I said I would do as your Charleston County Sheriff, that is identifying, aggressively going after those that are committing criminal activity in our county. I don't care who you are or where you're from, we're coming after you, and we're going to make that happen. So I'm very proud of what all the agencies did at that operation. I was there, very long day, but I made sure I was there with them to see exactly what these men and women are doing and support them. So very proud that we got this type of element out of our community. We made it safe for some of our young people, and we're going to continue working on that. From here, I'd like to turn it over to Chief Mark Hill from SLED. I said their agency was the lead agency. We say lead agency, but there's so many. We were all supporting each other, so it was multi-agency. But if you had to say who was the one that got this started, his fantastic team who worked tirelessly, and I'll let Chief Keel take the podium. Chief?
Thanks, Sheriff. Mark Keel, Chief of SLED. I just want to start by recognizing the number of units at our agency that participated in this investigation. I don't know, it's been some time since we've had a case where we had the number of participants that we had in this case. I think we had over 60 agents that were deployed here Sunday morning working. They were from our alcohol and narcotics unit, our human trafficking unit, our immigration and enforcement unit that works very on a regular basis with our ERO and our ICE folks, our HSI folks, our dogfighting unit, our SWAT team was here that assisted in the entry of this location. Our aviation unit was here and provided aerial overwatch during the course of it. We had folks here from our fugitive unit, our analysts from our fusion center, our low country agents, and again, it was a large operation. I think one thing that I always say about South Carolina is it is amazing that the law enforcement relationships that we have and the way we get along, both local, state, and federal agencies. We work good together. We collaborate with one another. We don't have egos. We get out and we do the job and try to do everything we can to protect the citizens of our state. We will continue to do that. And there will be more operations like this as we continue to work to bring justice to those who have been victimized and to also bring those to justice that have violated our laws, both state and federal. Again, I want to thank all the agencies that participated. They did a wonderful job on this investigation. It is not over. It continues and will continue until we get to the end of this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I'd like to ask Homeland Security Investigations Special Agent in Charge Morant, sir, if you'll please come up and say a few words. They were key in this operation.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good morning. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Cardell Morant, and I'm the Special Agent in Charge for Homeland Security Investigations Charlotte, which covers North and South Carolina. I'm here today to speak about the results of a recent, highly coordinated enforcement action in the Charleston area, one that underscores our unwavering commitment to public safety, community protection, and the power of collaboration. Over the course of this joint operation, Homeland Security Investigations, working side by side with the Charleston County Sheriff's Office, South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, and our federal, state, and local partners, conducted an enforcement operation that led to the administrative arrest of more than 66 individuals who are in the United States illegally. These individuals were encountered during the execution of a search warrant at an unlicensed, illegal nightclub operating in plain view of the community. During this operation, we made 5 criminal arrests. Some of these individuals have been charged with serious offenses, including assault on a police officer, resisting arrest, possession of a controlled substance, and a felon in possession of a firearm. One individual taken into custody is wanted for murder in Honduras and will now face justice after evading it for far too long. Equally concerning, we encountered 7 juveniles at the location. These minors were turned over to the appropriate social services agencies to ensure they are safe and protected from further exploitation. This speaks to the deeply troubling conditions at this location, where criminal activity, illicit substances, and illegal firearms posed a direct threat not just to the neighborhood, but to the most vulnerable among us. This operation was not only about immigration enforcement, it was also about restoring order, removing threats from our streets, and ensuring the safety and well-being of Charleston area residents. It reflects the critical importance of the whole of government approach we continue to take across this region and the country. This investigation is ongoing, and as such, additional details will be limited at this time. I want to take a moment to personally thank Sheriff Carl Ritchie of the Charleston County Sheriff's Office and Chief Mark Keel of the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division for their outstanding leadership and their department's commitment to this mission. Your agencies played a vital role in this operation, and we could not have achieved the success without your professionalism, insight, and dedication. To our federal and state partners, thank you as well. These kinds of results happen when agencies come together with one mission in mind: to safeguard the public and disrupt criminal networks that endanger our communities. To the people of Charleston, I want to reassure you, HSI and our partners are here for you. We're committed to protecting this community, holding criminals accountable, and ensuring that those who violate our laws, whether through violent crime or unlawful presence, are not allowed to continue doing so unchecked. This operation was a strong example of how law enforcement can work together to make our communities safer. We'll continue this important work with vigilance, professionalism, and partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to ask our governor, maybe ask you to come up and say a few words. Governor, please.
Thank you, Sheriff. Sheriff, I want to congratulate you. You are doing exactly what you said you were going to do. President Trump is doing exactly what he said he was going to do, and it's making a difference. Just I invite you to think about this. You've heard some of these details of all these arrests, 116 or more. About 200 people in the place. Get this picture. It's in middle of the night, black dark, in a rural area, in this sort of a club. And you had all these people out there. This was after 2:30, 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the morning. And you had all these arrests were made. You had trafficking victims. You had the missing juvenile. You had one international murder being sought by Interpol, which is based, as you know, international police based in Paris, France. 10 underage juveniles, they were in there at the bar with all these other people. Firearms recovered, cocaine seized, controlled substances confiscated, vehicles seized. So much currency seized, they had to send it to the bank and let them count it on one of those machines that they have. All of that going on right here under our noses for all this time. Now, how did this happen? One way it happened is when you don't have strong law enforcement, this is what happens. And when you have, particularly in these cases now, that we're going to have now and we will have for years to come, when we have illegal immigration, people with criminal backgrounds, people bent on causing trouble, that are recognized some as terrorists, that are allowed to come through a completely open border, this is what you get. I can't think of a single thing good that would have been going on at this location at this time of night in our county. But this is what we are getting as a result of the lack of enforcement and the non-enforcement of the laws under the Biden administration. We'd get it under any administration, but no administration has done it as poorly as the Biden administration. Well, things have changed, and this conference today is explaining and presenting to the people not only of this county, not only these cities, but of this country, what happens, what the consequences are when you have that lack of enforcement with open borders, despite the fact that those in charge in the Biden administration were saying repeatedly, the border is closed, the border is closed. Well, you can look at this and you know that's not true. But this is also a good example of what happens when you have a coordinated approach with men and women working together to enforce the laws, and you have a president who is determined to enforce these laws. We're going to be seeing this for a number of years because there are a lot of people in here that are not supposed to be here. And they're making friends and associates with other people who have criminal records. And what these men and women busted up last night is an example of what is going on in other parts of our country and likely in other parts of our state. So we got a lot of work to do. But fortunately, final point, we got the right team to do it. And you're looking at that team right now. There's no better law enforcement anywhere in this country than Atlanta. And with a strong president, like President Trump, doing what he's doing to put the power of the federal government involved as well with the state and local, we're going to make great progress. So I say to all of you men and women, thank you, congratulations, and to the people of South Carolina, things are going to get better.
Thank you, Governor. I'll now ask our Attorney General, Helen Wilson, to please make some comments.
Thank you. First, Sheriff Ritchie, I want to thank you personally for the invitation you extended to me to be here today to talk about this press conference. First off, I think you've probably invited me to nearly half a dozen events since you have been sworn in as a sheriff, and it's true. You have done everything that you said you would do, that you ran on. I did a ride along with Sheriff Ritchie. He invited me to come down here, and he kept me out to 1:30 in the morning, which is about 4 hours past my bedtime. But we rode around, and I got to see what local law enforcement were doing in partnership with our federal partners at all hours of the night. And while people are sleeping peacefully in their beds at night, the men and women of the state and federal agencies standing up here are out there patrolling the streets and the communities and neighborhoods of this area of the state of Charleston County. And so I saw firsthand what goes on, and it's just incredible. And of course, I was here just a couple of weeks ago for an Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force operation, and I got to see firsthand not just patrolling the streets and neighborhoods of Charleston, we're patrolling the digital streets and neighborhoods in our community, and that's very powerful. Over the last 9 months, I've had 2 opportunities to go to the southern border. And on my last visit, which was about 10 days, week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I was in the Yuma sector, and I met with ICE and border officials down there, Border Patrol agents rather, and what they told me was this. In May of 2023, the number of illegal border crossings happening every day was averaging about 1,500 crossings a day. Think about that, an average of 1,500 illegal crossings per day in May of 2023. In May of 2025, they are averaging 4 illegal border crossings a day, from 1,500 a day to 4 a day. And that is very powerful. Here's why it's powerful. What we learned is that the Mexican drug cartels south of the border, they control who gets to come to the border to cross it, and then the policies of this country control who's allowed to go into the interior. And so the cartels were very much engaged in allowing and facilitating the illegal migration because it was helping fuel a lot of the drug trafficking and the human trafficking and all the other illicit activity that was coming into this country. And so when you come here to South Carolina, and I've said it 1,000 times, South Carolina is very much a border state as the state of Arizona when it comes to the criminal activity that is coming here. And so when I see what Sheriff Ritchie and the leadership at HSI and the FBI and my partner here, the Chief Kill of the State Law Enforcement Division, all of his amazing team, but I see what they're doing when it comes to combating what's coming into this state, you should understand how important it is what they do. For instance, over the last 4 to 5 years, my investigations we've been operating with our partners, many of them are up here today, just historically, we have seen a historical amounts of meth in around the range of 500 kilograms of meth coming into the state of South Carolina over the last 4 years. All, again, cartel related. 544 kilograms of fentanyl coming in to this state, historically speaking. By the way, 1 kilogram of fentanyl is enough to kill 500,000 people, according to the DEA. And then 850 kilograms of cocaine coming into this state. Again, it was based, and as the governor said, the policies at the top matter. But also, it's not just the policies at the southern border. It's the law enforcement and the policies here in our respective state of South Carolina that matter too. Policies at the border allowed a lot of this stuff to come in here, and the enforcement policies of the people standing up here are what's getting it out of here. And so it does matter. South Carolina is a border state. I also want to give a shout out to our state human trafficking task force. A number of members of folks standing up here, their agencies are active participants in the state human trafficking task force. As you all heard, there were a number of alleged human trafficking victims. Last summer, the Department of Homeland Security's Office of the Inspector General released a report saying that there were around 320,000 unaccompanied minors who were led into the United States and they cannot locate, that they do not know where they are. And I'm not here today to say that any of the ones that were found in this operation are part of that 320,000. We don't know. This is an ongoing investigation. But whether they're unaccompanied minors here illegally or whether they're resident U.S. Or residents of South Carolina who are being trafficked, one is too many. And so I want to thank the state task force participants in their day jobs working this operation, but on their volunteer job with the task force, they're taking a number of these minors into custody to help them in that transition from being rescued from a life of trafficking to being a survivor. And so I want to thank our law enforcement partners who are part of that task force to help human trafficking victims. Again, I want to thank Sheriff Ritchie. I want to thank Chief Mark Keel. I want to thank Special Agent in Charge Morant and all of the other members up here and their respective agencies. And Governor, thank you for your leadership, being a pro-law enforcement governor. We always appreciate you having our back. So thank you, sir.
Again, thank you. Is there anybody else from any other agencies that want to say something? I didn't think so. Blame you. Right now, we're going to take some questions. We're going to open it up. But please keep in mind, when you ask these questions, this is a very fluid, very active investigation. We're roughly 24 hours in. I'm hoping you see the transparency's here. We're giving it to you as soon as we can, when we can. As I said, operational security is still very important as we deal with the issues out here. So happy to take questions in just a minute. And you'll be first, I promise. No. Happy to take questions, and if I'm not the person to answer it, I'll at least defer to whoever's back here that can answer that question. Yes, sir.
My question is for Attorney General Wilson. Take a minute to comfort South Carolinians and talk about how these charges are going to stick. These people are going to stay in jail. They're going to be deported. They're going to be in trouble, and these judges aren't going to let them go.
So first off, there's a number of charges, both state and federal. I imagine the U.S. Attorney's Office will be involved with the federal partners. Obviously, you have a local solicitor here who will probably be handling most of the charges from this area. Now, my office has concurrent jurisdiction with our federal partners and our state solicitors, and so we through our state grand jury or through our regular prosecution division will be assisting when asked to do so. Obviously, I think how judges are elected matter, because when you have judges that give light or lenient sentences, you have to have a way to be able to impress upon those judges that those are not the kind of policies we want implemented from the bench, which is why I fought very hard to give my governor here the opportunity to put people on the commission that actually screens judges and nominates them to the General Assembly. So how we elect judges matters. I don't want to throw this all on the judges, but what I will say is for judges who are going to go lenient on the types of cases where children are involved, we're going to shine a lot of sunlight on that, and I will support Solicitor Scarlett Wilson. I will support U.S. Attorney Brian Sterling in the prosecution of these cases from my perch in the Attorney General's office. So thank you very much for your question.
Thank you.
How long has this been an ongoing problem at the Alamo?
Do we have anybody who wants to speak on that specifically? All right. Eric, do you want to speak on that?
I can touch
if you
on it.
Introduce yourself. Thank you.
You know, I'm Deputy County Administrator Eric Watson, Public Safety, Charleston County. The Alamo has been in existence for quite a while. We've had a number of noise complaint that kind of expanded to a violation because the owner expanded his property, and that launched an investigation for the county. He was found guilty in his absence. So it's an ongoing nuisance for the community.
And I'll say with that, it's amazing how we can go from a noise complaint to starting getting, again, intel, information from folks that maybe may have gone there or may have seen activity or were concerned. We got that information. We have great partnerships. Point we were able to make yesterday morning. So it's just important that you run down every lead and look at every fact of a case as we're responding and dealing with this issue. Yes, ma'am.
I think you said it started back in November, so that's been, what, 8 months ago you guys started looking at the Alamo?
That's my understanding from my team, yes, from November last year. And
I know you can't get into specifics, but can you talk about, was it noise complaints like Eric mentioned? Was it something more? I mean, this has been building for 8 months.
Well, of course, it begins at that. Like I said, with the noise complaint, gets our attention, obviously, and some of the complaints from the neighbors, the businesses in that area, it's an industrial area, gets us there. Obviously, as we start investigating and we start developing leads, that's when we started noticing the assaults occurring in the parking lot, maybe some of the different illegal activity that was going on that caused us to take a deeper look. And I'm very grateful for the team, the large team that's standing here behind me, that continued to look into these matters to get us to the point we were yesterday. And then we'll continue investigating this, but thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I believe you said that the establishment won't be able to operate anymore. Can you expand on that after they've been shut down?
I can. It's been shut down, obviously, after the operation. And we're working with our code enforcement partners with Charleston County that have already put a notice on the property. It's under investigation. There are going to be multiple county violations, we know, and code enforcement violations. And we'll update you as we get through those, that will not be allowed to operate as a bar ever again. It should never been a bar or nightclub to begin with. So that'll be addressed. Again, we'll be working with our state partners on that one as well, with the alcohol licensing or non-licensing and those type of issues. But there will be enough on the report when code enforcement's through to ensure they are not able to open up again.
What licenses did they not? Can you share what licenses they didn't have? They didn't have through the.
Well, I don't know all of that answer, but I can tell you there was no license to sell alcohol, especially to underage people for sure. And there's probably questions about business licenses, but that's why D.C. Watson and his team are looking into this very closely, code enforcement, to identify all of those violations. I think there's going to be numerous before it's over with.
Can people in the county expect to see more operations of this scale?
They can. They absolutely can. And I want to tell anybody who's operating illegal establishments like this, selling drugs, human trafficking, I don't care what it is, if you're involved in illegal activity in Charleston County, I can assure you there's no place to hide. Again, we have a great team, great support behind us, and we support them in their enforcement activities. We are here to make Charleston County safe, and that's exactly what I'm going to do to ensure that people can live safe lives and not have to worry about what's going on around them. I can tell you, businesses in the surrounding area had to hire off properties when this place was open. So that's what we heard from some of those businesses, made phone calls saying thank you. And we need to see this happening so we could have a little better environment around us. So we will continue looking for those things. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Sheriff. You
Hey.
said that 80 warrants were served. Can you tell us where those people were taken?
Well, no, ma'am, there's 116 warrants with roughly 80 people. And I will defer back to our ICE or HISI folks, if y'all can speak it or not, or your PIO. And we did, and some of those warrants were criminal that were housed in our jail and being dealt with here. And I don't know if y'all want to speak on that or not, the others.
I can provide further detail after.
No, say. So he'll provide that for you afterwards, the others, for operational reasons.
Thank you.
Yes,
And I
ma'am.
also saw that SLED was the arresting agency on one person who was booked into the Charlotte Cannon Detention Center. That sounds similar to what you've mentioned about alcohol licensing and that type of thing. Is that the owner of the LMO, or are you going to identify that person?
Well, obviously, I'll defer back to Slade on that, and I'll let you speak on that, sir. Since it was your arrest.
He is the operator of that establishment, or was.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Could you just share a general update on the victims, how they're doing, and what resources they're being given?
Again, I can tell you those that were identified, and again, they're alleged right now. Our team that they're working through that. DSS was involved. Our folks that handle that type of trafficking are having these conversations to see if we can get to that next level. These are alleged victims right now that we identified on site that we thought needed the intervention, and we gave them intervention, removed them from that area. They're safe, they're secure, and again, we're 24 hours in this. It's continuing, and we're ensure that anyone who is identified as an actual victim of trafficking will continue to get the services they need to make them whole and make them safe. Yes, ma'am.
In terms of protecting the community, since this has been happening since November, can you speak on how you were kind of protecting them, or if you took any action before you carried out the operation?
Officers responded often to that location, would handle different complaints of the noise, obviously different complaints of the assaults that may have occurred in the parking lot. And I think, like I said, some of the surrounding agencies who had jurisdiction across the street had off-duty security. But let me remind you that we knew that there was going to be more to this investigation. That's why that we would respond to the issues, deal with anything that was an imminent threat to the community to allow us to continue to watch this investigation unroll, to have such a huge success that we did. Thank you.
Sheriff, I know you said you
Yes,
wanted to clarify the facts. I've seen on social media some people saying that they were there and that everyone's IDs were checked. Can you talk about what that process looked like, if everybody or if it was targeted to certain individuals in the establishment?
And that again is going to be with our HSI team. If y'all want to speak on it or afterwards, come on up. But I can tell you there was a good operation that was going on. I'd love for them to speak on that.
The last part of your question again, please.
People on social media saying that everybody in the establishment had their IDs checked, or were they just targeted to certain individuals? I'm just curious what that looked like.
No, everyone on the premises. It's important to keep in mind that this was a cartel after party. So everyone there had their IDs checked and were processed and either arrested or released.
So there was non-citizens and citizens who were arrested?
I'm sorry. Yes.
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 I know there were.
Yes.
Yes.
For sure. Yes, ma'am.
Can you expand on a cartel after party? I'm sorry, that just
Again, I'll
jumped out.
explain.
It begs that question.
So bad guys like to celebrate too, so this was their way to let off some steam. And they were unfortunately doing it right here in the community.
So you're understanding that everybody in the establishment was aware of it being a cartel, or were people there?
Well, I mean, it wasn't a secret, so I can't really speak to what every individual knew, but the community at large knew that there was nothing good going on at that establishment.
One more question, sir.
Okay. One more question, anybody? Yes, sir.
Sheriff, would you say, based on the coordination of this, going into this kind of operation with all these agencies, that much of the outcome of this was expected with the number of arrests and warrants and say, but it seems like when you touch on missing juvenile and implications of trafficking, would you characterize that as a surprise? Were there other surprises in this?
Sure. Honestly, we weren't surprised. I was surprised that the missing juvenile was found there, and actually quite relieved that we were able to locate and remove a missing juvenile from that situation. We had information, obviously, and it's still being, again, under investigation, that there was trafficking going on. So I hate to say it, but in being in the business as long as I've been in it, nothing surprises me anymore. Disappointing, yes, to know that we had to deal with this situation. But it goes back to these strong partnerships. And by the way, none of us met for the first time yesterday morning. We all know each other. We all have worked together. And it's all for that common goal of keeping our county safe and keeping those that live, work, play here as safe as possible. So great question, and I wish I could say it was a surprise, but not completely. But it was a nice bonus to get that missing child identified and picked up. And again, identifying those very young people that shouldn't have been at a bar anyway, and getting them to their parents and getting them off the street at that hour. But thank you. So we're going to wrap it up real quick. I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. Ongoing operation. We're continuing the investigation. We're continuing to follow every lead. So I would ask anybody who has any information specifically to the operation yesterday, the Alamo, or any other situation that may need to be reported, to report any crimes, or if you know of any victims or a victim of yourself from this location, we ask you to please call this number, 803-896-7400, and we will absolutely follow up on whatever information you give us and do our part to keep you safe. Yes. Well, sure, I'm getting some good advice here. He's right. Just remember, everybody is presumed innocent until they're convicted in the court of law. So that goes back to what I started earlier, facts matter. So I'm hoping getting this information out, being as transparent as we can, just to know these folks, we had probable cause to make these arrests. That's why they were made. Still have a court system that is still one of the best in the world, that these folks will be going through the court system and being dealt with at that level. So thank you for that, sir. And thank you for all your time. And as these continue, we will continue to update you on this operation. We'll continue to include you on others as we're making our county safe. So thank you again for your time.
You've been watching a live press conference out of North Charleston with the governor as well as the sheriff, talking about several busts at an unsanctioned bar in North Charleston yesterday. And ICE involved, as they were pretty much saying that this was a bit of an after party for a cartel, and the investigation continuing. More details to come on this major bust out of the Charleston area. I want to bring you some breaking news right now, as we are just getting some pictures and video from this morning at Ardrey-Kell High School. This after the principal, Jamie Brooks, officially retired after being suspended. Her retirement in effect yesterday. This is what it looks like this morning. School still in session, saying signs there saying bring back Brooks. The details behind her suspension still unclear, but tied perhaps and connected to a lot of fallout there. Certainly conversation regarding the recent racial allegations from one student. So a lot of headlines being made out of Ardrey-Kell High School as of late, but the pictures this morning showing a number of supporters, teachers, families, and the like there in front of Ardrey-Kell saying, "Bring back Brooks." So we are going to have our reporter, Tradisha Woodard, cover most of this today, see what she can follow up on, and hopefully get a response from CMS. In the meantime, that is what's happening there as season's going to start, or graduation for Ardrey-Kell, pretty much in the next week or so as we close out these final weeks of CMS. Let's take you back out now to Dedham, Massachusetts, because the retrial for Karen Reed is happening as there is a number of witnesses taking the stand here in the 7th week. This is one of the witnesses now, Kelly Devers, here, and not too long ago, minutes ago, she was saying she didn't understand why she was on the witness stand. She is the defense's witness. Let's listen in here on WCNC Plus.
Sallyport for a wildly long time together in there, end quote. Did you say that?
That was my recollection of the time.
Okay.
So yes.
Have you ever heard of By the way, you indicated under questioning by Mr. Brennan that you knew what they wanted from me, meaning the defense, what they wanted from me. You
Yes.
remember saying that?
Yes.
Do you remember on that phone call that we read directly from the exact same report that I just read from? You remember that?
And I told you the same thing then.
That's not
Yes.
the question.
Objection.
Sustained. My question is, just answer my question, Officer Dever. Did we read to you, were you read the exact same thing that I just read to you on that phone call?
Like you can't remember my name, I don't remember.
I can remember your name, Miss Dever.
Okay, so the answer is I don't remember. No comments.
More than that, Judge. I think we all.
All right, so no comments, just questions, please.
Do you recall us telling you that we were looking for the truth about your
Objection.
comments?
I'm going to allow it.
That we were looking for the truth.
Which I gave you, yes.
Did you also say on that phone call something to the effect of, I know you're going to tear me a new one because I'm changing my testimony?
Changing, no. But you're trying to do that.
Did you say, I know you're going to tear me a new one?
That's what you're trying to do, so yes.
Actually, what you said was, you're going to tear me a new asshole, didn't you?
I don't recall that, so that's putting words in my mouth.
I'm not asking you to put words in your mouth. I'm asking you if you remember saying that during that phone call. Oh, I know
recall.
you're going to tear me a new asshole.
I don't recall.
Okay. But you do remember saying something to the effect of, I know you're going to tear me a new one, right?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever heard of something called the blue wall of silence?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you think it's important for police officers to protect one another in the field and out?
Objection.
Sustained.
Have you spoken with anyone, not Mr. Brennan, he's covered that. Have you spoken with anyone from the district attorney's office about your involvement in this case? Ever?
No.
Never?
Unless you're going to provide a person. I've never talked to any of these people.
Have you talked to anyone at the DA's office at all, in any regard?
Not to my recollection.
How about indirectly?
Not to my knowledge.
Are you friends with any people that you're aware of that are connected to this case? Are you personal friends, girlfriends, boyfriends, personal friends with anyone that's connected with this case?
Other people who's been on the witness stand, one person, yes.
Who's that?
Sarah Levinson.
How long have you known Sarah?
We became friends in middle school.
Did you watch any of this trial?
Clips in passing, but no, it's 6 hours a day. So I work during the day shift, no.
So you've seen some of the footage of the goings-on in this case, correct?
Yes, nothing with her. I did not watch her testimony.
Were you aware there was a sequestration order?
I don't know what that means, so no.
You're a sworn police officer. You don't know what sequestration means?
No.
In terms of witnesses? Not
No.
watching the proceedings in order to affect their testimony?
No, I wasn't aware.
But you did tune in to the case, correct?
In small clips, yes.
And you did, in fact, on August 9th, 2023, have a fulsome conversation with two sworn police officers about your memory of what you saw, your observations on January 29th, 2022, correct?
I don't know if they're police officers necessarily, but yes.
Law enforcement agents, how about that?
Yes.
And that conversation is reflected in this piece of paper that I just read to you, correct?
Yes.
Thanks. That's all I have.
Okay.
Were you subpoenaed by the Commonwealth in this case?
No.
You were subpoenaed by the defense.
Yes.
Did they tell you that there was a sequestration order or that you shouldn't watch any of the footage? Did they fairly inform you about what the ground rules were?
No, and I wasn't part of the first trial, so I had no idea about anything to do with this trial.
When you spoke to those law enforcement officers back in 2023, do you know that they made a report where you had informed them that you knew Sarah Levinson, and that report had been provided to the defense a long time ago? Did you know that?
Yes, I informed them very clearly.
So the question about if you know Sarah Levinson, that's no secret in your world, is it?
In that form, I'll sustain it.
That isn't a secret, is it?
Not at all.
That's something you were open and candid about?
Yes.
You understand that regardless of what you say, it doesn't matter as long as it's the truth. Do you understand that?
Yes.
The Commonwealth in no way is asking you to accommodate it or please it in any way. Do you understand that?
Yes.
If there was something that may be perceived by others as adverse to the Commonwealth, you understand we would want you to tell that if it was the truth, don't you?
Sustained.
You understand, well, the Commonwealth has never intimated, suggested, or advised you to say anything other than the truth, have they?
No.
Have you been given any consideration or reward because you remedied your memory?
No.
After being shown the evidence that you left that day, January 29, 2022 at 3:45, and learning that the defendant's car did not get to the Sallyport at 5:30 or so p.m., is there any way you could have seen Mr. Berkowitz and Mr. Higgins in the Sallyport with the defendant's car that night before you left for work?
There is no way.
Understanding you made a mistake, was the defense receptive to your explanation that you made a mistake?
Objection.
Sustained in that form.
Did the defense pressure you when you told them you were going to come into this court and tell the truth about your mistake?
Objection.
No, allow it.
Can you rephrase it?
Yes. When you told the defense you had made a mistake about your memory, did they pressure you?
Yes.
Did they pressure you to say something other than the truth?
Yes, they wanted me to repeat a lie at that point, given it would have been with malicious intent to repeat it.
Understanding a lawyer has no power to charge with contempt, does that change the reality of whether or not you were threatened? Let me ask it a different way. You were asked questions about whether or not you knew who could take out charges for a crime. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Regardless of whether an attorney has that power, were you threatened that there would be a charge of perjury if you didn't comply with the defense wishes in this case?
Yes.
And knowing you were going to come into court given this experience you had with the defense, is that why you felt like they were going to tear you? Is that the phrase we used?
Yes, because they did not want me to tell the truth. So I told them that knowing they were kind of trying to eat me alive into repeating something that is not the truth.
Rather than to come in here and be attacked, wouldn't it have been easier just to said what you had earlier thought was true?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
Wouldn't it be easier just to come in and accommodate them rather than be threatened?
Well, of course.
So why did you come in here?
My entire job revolves around what I say on the stand right now. If I was to lie, I lose my job. I lose everything. I'm here to tell the truth. I cannot lie while sitting on the stand.
Thank you.
One question.
Okay.
Your entire job revolves around what you say on the witness stand. Is that what you just testified to?
Yes.
And if you agreed that what you said to those two law enforcement agents on August 9th, 2023, you would be implicating not one, but two police officers, law enforcement officers, correct? If you agreed with what you said in August of 2023 on this witness stand, you would be implicating two officers, fellow officers, correct?
So I'm confused as to what you're asking.
You would be implicating, if you agreed with me, you have not agreed that that was the truth. You've now indicated that what you told to law enforcement agents in August of 2023 was a lie.
No.
If you agreed with that statement here on the witness stand, you would be implicating two officers as having been in the Sally Port, weirdly, for a wildly long time with the SUV, implicating not one, but two fellow officers, correct? That's what you would be doing.
It's not possible I
If
saw
you
that.
agreed with me, would you be implicating the reputations of two officers?
If I was to lie, then yes.
And your entire job revolves around what you say on that witness stand. That's what you said, correct? That's what you just said, Officer Dever, correct?
I still don't really understand the question.
You just said, all I'm asking you is what you just said. I wrote it down. You just said, my entire job revolves around what I say on the witness stand, correct?
Yes to that question.
Thank you. That's all I have.
I'm confused. When you spoke to those agents, you didn't implicate Chief Berkowitz and Mr. Higgins with doing anything criminal, did you?
No, they were friends. That's why Higgins had an office there.
You didn't implicate them ever suggesting they had tampered with evidence, did you?
No.
You never implicated them saying that they had framed anybody, did you?
No.
So when you talked to those agents, did you ever suggest that Mr. Higgins and Mr. Berkowitz did anything to touch or tamper with the defendant's Lexus at all?
No.
Never.
No.
Is there anybody you're protecting?
I have no one to protect.
Do you need to protect anybody?
No.
All right, Officer Dever, you are awesome.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, jurors will take a morning recess, 20 minutes.
All rise, please. Jurors, close your notebooks and follow me.
All right, well, how do you like that? Out of Dedham, Massachusetts, more spice for your Monday as Kelly Devers is being questioned by both the defense and the prosecution under cross. So with that, as they take a recess, we're going to break from that as well and get you back to a press conference, an interview by Arkaylin Hagwood, who talked to a former FBI investigator on what happened in Hickory over the weekend. 12 people shot at a house yesterday, early in the overnight hours from Saturday to Sunday. This is their interview here on WCNC+.
When you hear share the areas that they're investigating right now. What does that tell you about what may have taken place here?
Well, first of all, this is a terrible tragedy. I think what they're doing now, they're concentrating on preserving the crime scene because it was spread out over such a wide scope of the area. I don't know if it was a party that had taken place and this was after the party, but it appears as though there was some gathering and folks were still hanging around, and that this may have occurred late night, during or after the party. So preserving the evidence, gathering information from those who were casualties of this. Fortunately, unfortunately, one person was killed, but fortunately, several people are still have survived. So I'm sure what they're doing is they're trying to figure out how to speak to those who are in the hospital, and there seem to be almost a dozen people in the hospital.
Certainly, and the Sheriff's Department not saying exactly what the ages are or what type of party that was taking place. And maybe with a little bit more context there, we would be able to understand why things were happening so late at night whenever this all unfolded. But speaking of that, this did happen just after midnight where all of this took place. It's now 9:30 in the morning. That scene's still very active there, a large law enforcement presence. Why do you think investigators take more time in an investigation like this?
There are so many casualties, and because it took place when it was dark out, it's harder to gather the evidence. So now that they have sunlight, they're able to gather the evidence, whether it's the shells from the bullets that were used, which can tell a lot, or whether it was footprints, tire tracks. There's also the possibility that there could have been cameras, public cameras that could have captured images of.
You've been watching an interview over the weekend regarding a shooting at a Hickory house party. We are going to leave you with a look at Charlotte, and Charlotte Today is coming up next. If you want